Hi, this is Raina Halpern, and I'm just going to, before I turn it over to Raina, I'm going to just introduce us both a little bit, and then we'll move on to talking about what Raina does. I met Raina, I'm going to say a year and a half to 2 years ago. Raina is host of a death cafe, and that might be a new term to many people, and it certainly was to me. It was part of my journey after having lost my husband in 2019, and being hit by this grieving process, and my particular grief was complicated with a lot of other things that had gone on prior, looking after him and my cancer and so forth. So of course I was looking for a community of grievers to help me understand what I'd been through, to witness what they were going through, so we could just simply share our experiences. And in that process, somebody mentioned a death cafe, and I'm like, oh, okay, what is that? I don't know what that is. So I found the death cafe on the Kubler-Ross Foundation website, I think is where I came across it. And it's a free online every 3 Tuesdays a week. Anybody can pop in. What's the link for that? Is it Eventbrite?
Yeah, through Eventbrite. And I think you mean three times a month,
Three
not
times a month. They're on Tuesdays, yeah. Um, yeah, so I'd heard the term death doula before because my sister, who's her husband died a couple of years after mine, she decided to pursue that route where I really pursued the issue of grieving. I took training in it, got a certification in it, and now try and share my experiences with people who want to know. Um, so death doula was new to me. And I'm going to let you speak to that, Ryan. Of course, my thought about it is that it primarily is for people who are dealing, when I look at it from a grief lens, my grief was really happened. My husband's death was instant, shocking, surprising. I didn't have any lead up to it. So I'm thinking the families that are involved in anticipatory grief, where their loved one is still here with us, but they know the end is not too far off. So am I right or wrong about all of that?
well, can I just go back to the Death Cafe?
Oh, sure, for sure.
Because
Yeah.
I think you started to explain it. Um, and then we could talk about death doulaing or end of life doulaing. But first, I just want to thank you for having me, Cathy. And I have enjoyed having you in our death cafes the last few years. And
It's
so
been a
the
very enlightening experience for me, I will say.
really, how
Yeah.
so would you say?
Well, I think I was given an opportunity just because of what other people sort of raise in the meetings. I was given an opportunity to speak about a few things that I had really not been brave enough to speak about in a group, even a grief group, and B, I kind of thought they were very personal to me and the spirit of my husband, and yet, boom, all of a sudden, I felt like I was invited to speak about these things, and I did, and it was very healing for me to do that.
Well, that's lovely. Yeah. So the idea of the Death Cafe started in 2011 by John Underwood in England, and he got the idea from someone else who was doing something similar. And the notion is to just gather people together over tea and cake in a British sort of a way, to talk about death, anything about death, dying, grief, loss, with no agendas, no promotions, nothing you had to believe, but just normalize the conversation about death. And so it's not a grief group, but a lot of people grieve that come to it. It's not for anticipating your own death, but a lot of people come to it who are, in fact, close to the end of their lives. There's some people who come to it just to learn, to get more comfortable with conversations about death, sometimes because they have to, like they're in a social work school and they're assigned to do it. But some people just recognize that they've had a lot of loss in their life and they want to deal with it. So there's all these different reasons why people come, and I think that's what makes it so great because it does become a normal conversation, and you can be wherever you're at. I mean, we have talked, very intimately, people sharing um loss of a loved one, like you losing your husband. And people have also talked about filling out their advanced care directive, or their pet dying. I mean, there or just wanting to understand more about grief in everyday life. I mean, there's just been so many different topics that people talk about. And I've been doing them for since April 2020. So since the lockdown. And before I did them in person, and then I started doing them weekly for Mission Hospice. And then I started doing them Mission Hospice cut back, and Elizabeth Kubler-Ross Foundation wanted to do them. So I do 3 times a month between the two organizations. And, sometimes we have people from India and Portugal and England, and of course the United States, and then there's Argentina and, Canada. And so even though it tends to be North America, it's just really nice to have people come from all over the world. So it's just this kind of vibrant but very safe, supportive space uh, to have. So I just really love doing them. And, as an end-of-life doula, and we can talk more about all, whatever you would like to know about being one, but a lot what I feel passionate about is just reaching out. And so doing the death cafes, making it normal to talk about death. One person who's come for many years, the whole time I've been doing it, 5 years, he once said, I think it was like year 3, and he said, you know, if you just come to these and talk about death every week, you just get less afraid of dying. If nothing else, you get less afraid of dying. And I have thought of that so often since he said it. It's like, yeah, I'm less afraid of dying, or we are less afraid of dying. And so this whole idea of having death cafes, or I have designed and I teach 2 courses, one called Spiritual Dimensions of Nearing Death, and one called End of Life Intentions for Dummies, Pragmatists, and Seekers. And they're both, they have a little different focus, but still, it's about, let's get comfortable, right? Let's look at this because it's inevitable. It's gonna happen. It's what we all share. There's a lot of mystery and lessons in it. And so I really do love the teaching and outreach part. And I also like working with clients and their families in a smaller, intimate setting as well.
What I like about the grief groups and the Death Cafe is that in a society which really doesn't want to talk about death, touch death, it's very institutionalized. It helps the more, oh, I can only speak for myself, I guess. the more I engage with those groups, it's very healing for me.
Yeah.
But I think it normalizes this notion of death and dying because it's a normal part of life. My gosh, if nothing died, woo, would be terrifying. So, of course, we don't want people in our world to leave us. I think that's really the issue that we're,
Mm.
so impacted by. And I certainly didn't want my husband to go. But, my journey is there is life, there is new life, there is purpose and meaning on the other side of those experiences. The journey through grieving, can be pretty devastating. And it's so healing and helpful to have groups like the Death Cafe to I don't know, just share. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing like I noticed having you in the rooms, like your whole energy, everything shifted when you moved. Just
My
was
move, yes, isn't that true? Yeah,
That's one thing I love about the death cafes is, getting to know people over
yeah,
time and see, well, what does make a difference? We have somebody who I just love, and that comes every death cafe that I do. And he was diagnosed with complex grief. I mean, just really profound grief. And watching him become filled with light. I mean, he was always filled with so much love, but just become lighter, where the grief is not as profound and as complex. It's lighter, it's more integrated into his being as opposed to weighing him down. And just I know he talked about church and therapy, but also the Death Cafe, the community, the supportive, open, safe space.
for sure.
Yeah.
So I've been curious since I met you. What are the duties, the function of a death doula?
Yeah. Great question. And there's so many different answers. I mean, death doulas, I call myself an end-of-life doula, sometimes a death coach for people who want to talk who are not terminal, don't have a terminal illness or are not facing an imminent death. Um, there's so many different ways we work. I'll talk a little bit how I work, and then I could say what other people also do. But I really like to get to know the person, get to know their close peeps, build trust and rapport, you know, do some end of life planning. That might include the advanced care directive. It might include like what are the things that you need to let go of still. What is their sense of completion about their life? It might be legacy and life review work. It could be helping them figure out what are the things that they have, the mementos, the tchotchkes they have that they love, that they really want to pass on, and who do they want them to go to. It could be encouraging them to update or complete their will or their will and trust. It could be things like what's left on their bucket list and how can we help them achieve it. Who do they have unfinished business with and how can we help do it? The life review work can be, short videos of them talking about their life, uh, making them for different people in their life. It could be putting together a photo album or recipes or going through their jewelry and hearing their stories and recording it in some way. So there's just a whole lot of ways to work. And then really figuring out how and where they want to die and who they want to die with. So, do they want to be at home? Are they okay with machines? What kind of meds are they okay with? And how much? How conscious do they want to be? Who do they want with them? What do they want the space to be like? What do they want to have happen to their body after their death? Is there any memorial or funeral planning that they want to do? Do they want to be buried or cremated or body composting or set to the sea or all these different options? I really love the more green, environmentally friendly.
Many choices, my goodness. No wonder. It's
Yeah.
a wonderful thing that you're there to help.
Yeah, so there's a lot of planning to do. And then like sometimes people are very accepting that they're gonna die, but maybe their adult children aren't, or maybe it's the other way around, or maybe I have helped a few families where the kids had different ideas of how this was gonna go, work out some work out a plan so they could all be aligned and coordinated. Because sometimes, even though you write your advanced care directive, it can be interpreted in different ways, or some people say they won't follow it. So trying to get that all worked out. And then for like people who are solo agers, solo elders, to be with them and be there for them the way that they want to. Sometimes I'm on their advanced care directive form, and sometimes, I'm not. So there's all this and that can be done in it. And basically, as doulas, we're there to serve however the person wants. And so, one woman, she's 102 today. Her daughter brings me in, and, I basically massage her hands and we listen to music, and she's somewhat verbal, but we hang out together. It's just very, very sweet. So there's lots of different ranges of what can be done, what can be offered. And the idea is to find out what the person wants and serve them. So again, like the Death Cafe, we're not imposing our will or
Mhm.
our beliefs. We're trying to find out the clients and serve them. Other doulas work more maybe with home funerals, with officiating funerals, with more with the body and what's going to happen to it. I'm more like I like to do more the planning and the softening work in preparation.
How would a person, a family, find a doula in their area? I presume it has to be an in-person action. So how would they find somebody in their own area?
Well, we do some things by Zoom, people, talking through things and
Mhm.
planning can be done on Zoom. But sitting bedside, yeah, you need to be there in person,
Mhm.
especially as a person becomes weaker and less mobile. And people use Google,
Mhm.
like end of life doula and your town. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
or your state or your county. There's also a few directories that list doulas that are getting pretty good. There's the National End of Life Doula Association that if you're a member, you get listed in, and that's open to the public. There's a few other directories, like here in California, I'm in the Bay Area, and I'm co-leading an effort to get a doula directory together. And right now we have 92 people. And 5 years ago, we probably had under 10. So, it's really, really a growing field. And so this whole need for yeah, how can you find a doula and how do you find a doula that has the skills you want? Or, if you're a gay person, how do you find an LGBTQ friendly doula? Or, if you're Jewish or Buddhist or atheist, so these directories can help, but Google is good. And then the NIDA directory is helpful. There's a few other directories. One's INELDA, which is the international end of life directory, doula directory. But they're limited to members. So there's not one comprehensive everything
Did the
direct.
doula take training from an organization?
Yes, it's not a licensed
Mhm.
field at this point. And
Yeah.
so it is strongly encouraged that people go through some kind of certification process. So there are quite a few. There's Going with Grace, there's INELDA, there's the school I went to was at the University of Vermont through their medical school. They have a end of life doula certificate program.
Mhm.
There's lots of people doing small things, some classes. There's um, classes and courses. So there's one in Colorado called Conscious Dying. There's quite a few, and
Quite a
there's
few.
more all the time.
Yeah.
So, I think there's lots of resources for it, and it's helpful to go through a certificate program. But I think the most important thing is, um, like people ask me how to become a doula, and I always say, well, a lot of times people are motivated because they went through a death personally, and it was very, very moving. And that's what happened to me with my mom's death 8 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, and it, made them feel a calling. But I always suggest people are hospice volunteers
Yeah.
because that is the best hands-on training for becoming a doula and really finding out if it's the work you want to do. So being a hospice volunteer. And then I do probably, every week I do 2 to 3 webinars. So I'm always continuing my learning, always.
Glad you brought that up, and I just am aware that we're coming to the end of our time together,
Oh,
sadly. But I wanted to, I've been to your website, which I think is beautiful. Love your website. It speaks so much to who you are. If you go through that site, you kind of have met Raina already.
yeah.
And there's a lot of great information. I know you've got a program coming up next Wednesday, the 14th of May, 2025. People viewing this video may or may not catch it in time, but they can also pick out other programs that you offer and are part of. So is there anything, Raina, that you'd like to say before we close off?
Well, just will they know what the website is?
I'm going to put it, of course, and I'll put it in the description under the video, but it is endoflifeguidance.org.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess in closing, I would say, my mom had a beautiful death, and it was, I mean, everything she needed and wanted to say, she got to say, and all the goodbyes and sharing of love we got to do. And, she was ready for death. She reached for death. I went on a trip. I'm like, Mom, you cannot die while I'm gone. She's like, okay, but you get back, that's it. And she did. Like 2 days after I got back, she took to her deathbed, and she had this amazing 9-day experience. And it really taught me not just like just the immense value of being ready and being willing and open to talk about these things and just letting all the other stuff drop, but also that the way we grieve reflects the death. So, like my mom's death left me with so much love and so much peace. Um, and I say this without any judgment because people die very different ways, but it just gave me this way to just feel love and not feel so much sorrow.
Can be
And
quite a gift to the family as well as the person who's dying. Yeah.
and I'm, 90% of deaths, we do have that time. And so it's just, to me, doing this work is my spiritual practice, and I feel very honored to do it because it always gives me so much. And that's the thing I would like to close on. It's just that it's the weirdest thing, but death gives us a lot. The experience of losing a loved one, it just gives us and gives us and gives us. It also takes a lot, but it gives a lot. And so I feel very blessed to be able to keep learning from it.
Well, I'm very grateful that you came on and talked with me. This is my YouTube channel, YouTube at Let's Talk Together with Cathy. I always forget because I have so many other handles, depending on what website I'm on. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Cathy. Thank you so much.
Bye.